Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, and it is time. The Frenzied tuning has been released, and the newest selection pack is upon us. So, as always, we're going to go through and review all of the UR cards, the new ones anyway, and discuss just how good they are and how many you need for their respective decks. So, let's go ahead and get right on into this new pack breakdown. RB, the Brute Blues, is a Link 3 Wind Machine monster that is the boss of the new RB archetype. I've seen quite a few jokes running around about how RB just stands for really bad, but I think this deck is actually okay. I would call it upper rogue. I've seen it get quite a few results in my research at various regional events, which, while not like the most prestigious, is still decently respectable. It seems in my research again that I found a lot of the RB lists were paired with Sky Striker to add some more support, since RB has a lot of spell cards within its own archetype as well. The game plan here from reading the Link 3 is pretty obvious. We want this to point to some RB monsters, which in turn will buff monsters that are pointing to them, and this will allow our Brute Blues to be able to attack multiple times and gain a lot of attack points in the process, as well as protect itself. As far as number of copies, you're going to want 2 to 3, typically though 3 copies for your RB deck, as this is your main method of OTKing and breaking boards. You're definitely going to want multiple copies of it. Most seem to play 3, but again, if you only pull 2 and you really want to try this deck, you could in theory get away with that as well. RB Vulcan Booster is another Link monster for the RB archetype, but as opposed to being more of a boss monster, this is definitely more of a support card. Not only lets you search out your RB spells, but also, while it's in the EMZ, you can start summoning out more RB monsters that make it easier to Link climb up to your boss monster and give it some materials to work with. Now, RB, while I don't think it is as really bad as some other players say, I think we'll definitely be relegated to the rogue archetype. It's really cool. It's a neat idea to be able to, kind of assemble this high-powered robot to finish off your opponents. But at the end of the day, it is a very battle-based strategy, and it's a little bit more difficult for those to prevail, right? Because they're not necessarily as powerful going first, but at the same time, I don't think RB is a terrible deck by any means. I think it'll be upper rogue is a good spot for it. As far as this card, you'll definitely want 2 to 3 copies for your RB deck. Bramble Rose Dragon is the headliner for the new wave of Rose Dragon support. Now, when it comes to Rose Dragon in particular, you're going to want 2 copies of this card in your extra deck, and I will say this much. Rose Dragon itself, I have to call, I think, a lower rogue deck. I don't think it's really that strong, and from my research, I couldn't find it putting up that many results. However, I will note this, that Bramble Rose Dragon is not just used in Rose Dragons. In the future, when Predaplant gets its next wave of support, I've been seeing a lot of usage for Bramble Rose Dragon there as well. Mostly as a single copy, but that is definitely worth noting. While that Predaplant support is a little bit further in the future from now, probably still a few months away at the very least, it is still worth noting if you're interested in that deck and you pull a Bramble Rose Dragon, you should probably hang on to it for that. But for Rose Dragon itself, I'll say, I guess 1 to 2 copies, even though the only builds that I could find that topped regionals here or there were on 2 copies. But it's a decent sort of tax dragon type effect, right? Dealing 600 damage to your opponent every time they activate a monster effect, and also dropping their monster's attack points. It's a solid boss monster, but overall, like I said, I think Rose Dragon is going to be lower rogue. I don't think it'll be that strong personally. Black Rose Garden ends up being a pretty important continuous spell card for the Rose Dragon deck. For starters, it's a searcher, so that means it is a starter within the archetype. And as a result, if you're going to play a Rose Dragon deck, I have to imagine you're going to want to jam a full play set of 3 copies of this card. It's also got a pretty cute floodgate-ish effect to make all monsters become plants, somewhat similar to Clockwork Knight. This could mess up your opponent's summoning materials if they need to be a specific type for an extra deck summon. But overall, while this card is obviously very good for the Rose Dragon deck, not only, of course, turning plant monsters can stop your opponent's plays, but also enable some of your cards to get some bonus effects. Despite that, I don't think that Rose Dragon is going to be that good of a deck. In my research on the archetype, even with this wave of support, I could not really find much evidence that it performed very well at all. So I'm going to call the deck Lower Rogue. If you're going to play Rose Dragon, though, I would definitely try to get a playset of Black Rose Garden for your deck, for sure. Heart of Gaia is actually a rather interesting card because it's treated as both a Millennium card as well as Gaia the Fierce Knight, meaning that it can be used in either archetype. And it kind of goes with either archetype because you can normal summon it if you control a level 5 or higher monster, and if your opponent activates any monster effect, you can send another level 5 or higher monster you control to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy the card. That is actually a pretty solid effect. So I think Millennium is a lot more of a competitive engine than Gaia. So that's where I would expect to see this card if it does end up seeing play, right? You could go like Sengenjen, and then Sengenjen could add Heart of Gaia, which could then normal summon itself, and then you could send away the Sengenjen to, again, both negate and destroy a monster effect, which is not only a good end board piece, but could even help insulate your combo line. I will say, though, that requiring your normal summon is a little bit strict, honestly. Granted, it can summon without having to tribute, which is a nice little plus, but if you had to tribute summon this monster, you would just never see play at all. As it stands, I really couldn't find any list that had done anything noteworthy at all, not even like top of local that was actually playing Heart of Gaia. But I think that Millennium is in a slightly better spot in Master Duel than it is in other formats. So, I don't know. If I pull a copy of this, I might hang on to it and try it out in like a Millennium engine, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to craft or pull for it. Maybe in a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck, it does end up being a little bit stronger, but I don't have any experience with those kind of decks personally, so couldn't tell you. And I also think a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck would be like the bottom of Lower Rogue, if not just a casual deck outright. So Heart of Gaia, I don't know. Like I said, if you like the Millennium engine, you pull a copy, maybe worth hanging on to experiment, but otherwise, I wouldn't recommend this card for the most part. Masterpiece, the True Draco Overlord, is a way for the True Draco deck to have a boss monster that actually has a negate on it. If your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or field, you control this tribute summon a card, you can negate the activation and destroy that monster. Just a clean, once per turn negate. And also, if your opponent does manage to out this card by destroying it, they have to skip their next main phase, which is not totally inconsequential. However, I could not find any evidence that even after Masterpiece came out, that True Draco was in any better of a spot than it is right now, which is like towards the bottom of Lower Rogue. Like even among these like stunish kind of, you know, sit on big tribute summon to monsters decks, you're better off still going for like Monarch or even like Odeon as opposed to True Dracos. Yeah, this card has been out since Doom of Dimensions, which is like, in the OCG in particular, coming up on a year ago now, and I could not find like even evidence that this deck had topped a local, let alone a regional or anything higher. So I think calling this deck Lower Rogue might actually be a little generous. It probably should just be casual, but the card is not terrible. I guess True Draco is not the worst deck in the world. There are a couple of decks out there that are worse, so I'll call it Lower Rogue for now. As far as how many copies, like, it's hard to say because I don't play True Draco, and like I said, I couldn't find any tangible results where this was being used in a deck, but I guess I'll just say anywhere from 0 to 3, so we'll just call it at that. Sure, why not? Kewl Tune RS is one of the synchro monsters from the new Kewl Tune archetype. This one in particular is really powerful and one you're pretty much always going to try to get as part of your end board, as it not only has a sort of omni-negate effect, being able to negate any face-up card in the field, or rather that your opponent controls, but it also will increase the level of your opponent's monsters with 1700 or less original attack by 1, which is actually a pretty substantial floodgate effect if your opponent's on a deck like a Synchro or an Xyz deck that really needs the levels to matter. Even some Link decks out there require the monsters that are linking off to be like level 4 or lower, and this could potentially mess them up there as well. Kewl Tune RS is a very strong card, and I think Kewl Tune is going to be a really strong archetype. Now, at the time that I'm recording this section in particular, we've only seen the first 5 cards from the Kewl Tune archetype, so I don't actually know exactly how many we're going to get. But I'll say this, if we do end up getting both waves of Kewl Tune, I think the deck is very likely going to be tier 1. If it's only the first wave, I think Kewl Tune is still a really solid tier 3, maybe even bordering on tier 2 deck. But I'll call it tier 3 with only the first wave and play it a little bit safe. So yeah, as far as what the number actually says up here, this is entirely going to depend on the day this video actually goes out, and I will have the number for whichever wave we end up getting, the tier number that is up top there. But yeah, like I said, as of right now, the time I'm recording this, I just don't know for certain. But in the long run, even if it doesn't get its second wave of support now, when it does, Kewl Tune will definitely be a tier 1 deck, and when Phydraulius Harmonia comes out, it's over. This deck just gets that much better, being able to use a synchro-specific hand trap that is extremely powerful. But as far as how many copies you need, I'll say 2 to 3. I think you would really only need 3 if you were playing like Extravagance. For the most part, 2 is definitely enough. But if you pull a third copy, it might be worth hanging on to and experimenting with the number of Kewl Tune monsters in your extra deck. Kewl Tune Q is your main starter for the Kewl Tune deck, because when it's normal summoned, you can special summon any tuner from your deck, or hand or graveyard. Of course, you're locked into only being able to special summon tuners for the remainder of the turn, which isn't a problem for Kewl Tune, an archetype where all of their main deck monsters and all of their synchro monsters are tuners. And of course, synchro monsters can be summoned with multiple tuners. So Q, if you're playing Kewl Tune, you absolutely want a full play set of this card. It is your most important starter. It's kind of your only one-card starter. Well, kind of. It's really your best one-card starter. It doesn't require you to open anything else specifically in the hand. It pulls a monster directly from the deck. No matter what variant of Kewl Tune you're using, or even what wave of support is out, you always want to see Q. It is always going to be your best starter. It does have to be normal summoned, which is worth noting. However, Kewl Tune can also get extra normal summons in a couple of different ways as well. So all in all, definitely hold on to a full playset of this if you're interested in Kewl Tune. Very, very important card to be sure. Kewl Tune Reco is one of the monsters for the upcoming Kewl Tune archetype, and it's a pretty important one. This is actually another potential starter for the deck since we are getting Rotary, and as a result, this card becomes a lot more important to run at 3 copies. Even in a Wave 1 build, I think 3 copies would still be good, because in that case it would be an important extender, but here where you can actually normal summon this and search Rotary and then go full combo, definitely going to want to pick up a playset. It's worth noting that in the past, you would play, like again for a first wave Kewl Tune deck, you would play Red Nova in order to be able to summon this because it is a Fire Fiend, and Red Nova can summon a Fire Fiend from the deck when it is used as a material for a synchro summon that uses 2 or more tuners. But again, with Rotary out, you can just search this with Reco. That's your level 1 tuner to pair with this, and there's no longer need to jump through the hoops of playing Red Nova. Definitely a really good card for a really good deck, and if you want to play Kewl Tune, pick up a playset of 3 copies. Kewl Tune Synchro is a quick play spell card for the Kewl Tune archetype, and it really does like every single thing the Kewl Tune deck wants to be doing. This card can search, which is always nice on a quick play spell, means you can activate it during the draw phase and search your starter without having to fall prey to the draw and lock bird. But also being a quick play spell means that you can set it and add from your deck to your hand during your opponent's turn, which is relevant because Kewl Tune monsters can be used as synchro materials from the hand. And Kewl Tune Synchro immediately lets you synchro summon any tuner monster after you search. Again, highly relevant for the opponent's turn, where you're looking to synchro summon multiple times in order to use your disruption. It's also worth noting that Kewl Tune Synchro, like a lot of the other Kewl Tune effects, are unique in that it's not just once per turn, you can actually activate this twice per turn. So you could use Kewl Tune Synchro during your draw phase to search your starter, and then if that combo line needs you to activate Kewl Tune Synchro later in the same turn, you can still do that, which is really neat. Of course, it'll lock you into only being able to summon tuners, but that's all part of Kewl Tune, and not a big deal to that deck. So you'll definitely want a full playset of 3 copies of this card. You not only want to search it as part of your combo line, you don't mind seeing it in any amount of your opening hands at all, even if it's multiple copies, because again, you can activate multiple copies per turn. So always just jam 3 of this for your Kewl Tune decks. Zalen, the Shackled Dragon, is a very powerful new synchro monster. It's a Dark Dragon synchro tuner. The fact that it's a tuner, by the way, is very important for Kewl Tune in particular. It means you can summon it even if you are locked into only be able to summon tuners. But this card lets you get around an infamous mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh! Called chain blocking. So the way that Zalen reads is, when a card effect is activated in response to another card or effect activation, quick effect, you can activate one of these effects. negate the first effect if you do destroy the card, or negate the second effect if you do destroy that card. So if your opponent is activating multiple effects on the same chain link, right? Like if it's Mitsurugi and they're going, you know, Mitsurugi monster effect to search and revive is chain link 1, and then they go Mitsurugi mirror, the ritual spell, to shuffle itself back as chain link 2. You could respond with Zalen, and normally you would be forced to negate the mirror because it's the latest thing on the chain link, but Zalen can get around that, and in that scenario, you could negate the first effect instead, the Mitsurugi monster. Not only that, but this can also be an Omni negate in a lot of situations if you have another quick effect. Like, if your opponent activates a monster effect, and you have another quick effect of your own, you could chain it, then chain Zalen to your own card to negate the first effect, which is your opponent's card, not your own. So, just another example of how versatile and powerful this card is. You'll want this for, like, literally any deck that can Synchro Summon level 7. This is also very good for Synchro decks because it can be treated as both a tuner and a non-tuner. You do have to use a Synchro monster as well as a tuner to make it, but definitely worth it. Any Synchro Summoning deck should consider at least one copy of this. I've seen a couple of Kewl Tune builds that are on 2, mostly I think for Pot of Prosperity, which isn't legal on Master Duel anyway, or in our case it would be Extrav, but I'll just recommend a single copy for not only Kewl Tune, but any number of Synchro decks out there will absolutely want this card for sure. Overtuning is a rather interesting extender spell card. It's a normal spell that says if you control a tuner, you can summon any tuner from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then for the rest of the turn, you can't summon from the extra deck except for Synchro monsters. Now, the first obvious inclusion here is going to be in Kewl Tune, a deck that obviously wants to Synchro summon using multiple tuners, but as shown in the card art, you could use it in like a red/resonator deck. The Red Dragon Archfiend also wants to use multiple tuners. Even in a deck that's not using multiple tuners, something like Synchron, you could consider using something like this in order to help enable Synchro plays in situations where they might not normally be accessible, right? Like, again, even if you're not synchroing with multiple tuners, you could still have a tuner and a non-tuner out, use Overtuning, get another tuner, and then after you make your first Synchro monster, use the tuner that you summoned with Overtuning to make a second. However, at the end of the day, I don't think this card will ever be like, I don't know, it's hard to say if it'll be necessary for any Synchro-based decks, because at the end of the day, it's an extender. It requires you to already control a tuner monster, meaning if you open this in a bunch of hand traps, it's not a combo. Well, I mean, I guess if the hand traps are tuner monsters, but if you open this in a bunch of non-tuner cards, this card is not going to be live. It will not help you set up combos by itself. So, in that regard, I kind of feel like it's a little win more. I did see it being used in some Kewl Tune decks in the OCG, so it is something that you could play, I guess in theory, even up to 3 copies, but I think that 3 would definitely be way overkill. I think it's really, really optional, so I'll say 0 to 3. I personally don't have any plans of playing this card, but if I pull any, I might hang on to it just to use incidentally at some point in the future. And that is going to do it for our overview of the Frenzied Tuning. Now, this pack does offer Kewl Tune at full power, so I think that'll definitely have a huge impact on the meta. But what about some of the other decks? Definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below of what you think of this pack overall. For the time being, that's going to do it, so let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.